Hi, I'm Mack, and I'm on a mission to see the hurting get healed and the healed go out and heal others, in order for all of us to experience the true love and light we desire. This podcast is me sharing my journey with you, so you don't feel alone in your journey. Welcome to the Golden Rule Revolution. Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to another episode of the Golden Rule Revolution. I am Mack. Thank you for joining me. I'm really excited. Today I get to honor my brother, Johnny Elsasser, who has written the book, Design the Man Within. It drops on Amazon May 16th. So go buy it. It is amazing. It's a powerful book. And he and I talk in this episode about the book, about how we're healing as men. We are stepping into this new beautiful container to hold the space for the feminine energy to rise. It's such a powerful book. And, you know, there's a lot of content out there about men's healing and men's work. But I'll tell you something, those who have walked through the fire, those who have walked through the darkness, those who have lived the life of trauma and pain and adversity, to come through that and share a message of healing and just beauty is a message that we all need to hear. And this message with my brother Johnny is very powerful. So everyone, please enjoy this episode, and also go support him by picking up the book on Amazon. Well, like I said in the intro, I love this man. I love my brother, Johnny Elsasser, and I'm so glad to have you back on, and really excited to hear about the book, brother. It's such a cool time and cool season, and perfect for the world. They need your heart. They need your message.
I appreciate that, brother. And I love being on with you. Obviously, like, you're one of my favorite humans on this planet. And then also you and I can just talk forever on about everything.
That's true.
So I love it, and truly grateful for you having me back on. By the way, little side note, I saw Macklemore in concert at South by Southwest.
Oh,
dude is phenomenal in concert. I know you opened for him a long time ago. You emceed for him a long time ago.
Yeah,
that's really cool. But
that was phenomenal. Him and Ryan Lewis. You know, it's funny. Back then I was like, I don't want to take photos with them, but now I wish I would have, because I was right next to him backstage, and like we're all hanging out.
That's funny.
And yeah, he's amazing, isn't he?
Yeah, dude, he's so talented. Super raw. I can see why you gravitated to him as far as like being an MC for him, because he was so real and raw, and he just doesn't seem like a lot of the other mainstream quote unquote celebrities and artists are. He just literally seems like you could hang out with him and have a normal conversation. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to get that feel from him at a concert, and he just home run, dude. Just amazing. So shameless cool. Plug for Macklemore right now.
There you go. Dude, also a Seattle boy, holding it down. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Brother, what a time. First of all, I you know, we did this masculinity summit a while back with Fabiano, and it was cool to hear your heart. It's interesting to see like all these beautiful men sharing their heart and their mission, and you stood out, bro. I'm just I'm excited for what you're bringing to the world.
Yeah, brother. I think it's you and I do this a lot. And when we talk, we both kind of talk to the same thing, which is we got to start challenging the perceptions of what masculinity was and what is going to be useful for the future, while still holding and being that rock on this planet for the feminine and for the next generation. Like, there's a beautiful balance that needs to happen. And the past versions of masculinity that really served those times did a great job for what for the tools that they had. Yeah. Right. And we have so many different tools now. It's our opportunity to create this evolution. And that's what's powerful to me. And like, we can't get there unless we're willing to confront some of these old stereotypes, unless we're willing to have real conversations with one another, even if we have, conflicting views. It's like, we got to have this, and we need to come to some form of concession with one another, because at the end of the day, it's not about us individually. It's about creating like this strength for the future, because we're in unprecedented times, by far unprecedented times.
Yes.
And we need men to step up, not just for the present moment, but this next generation is just, it's not being, I'm trying to word this in a way that is productive, because I can word it in a way that's not deconstructive. But I this next generation is being let down right now, and it takes strong, good men with great perspectives on evolving masculinity to really bring them up. So that's really what it's all about, bro. And you preach that message better than most out there. So I love that we're on that same mission. And I love that, I have a brother like you in this life and in this battle, to really like anchor us in and stand next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, and just continue to move forward.
Dude, that's it, brother. Truly shoulder to shoulder. It's,
last maybe night, not truly, because you're a little bit taller than me.
Well, but side by side, Oh man, bro. I had an interesting experience last night where I dropped in on some medicine that I'd not taken before. I was by myself, and it was Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and
what?
Yeah, bro.
What, this medicine or a song?
No, the medicine. But I was like, okay, this is why they wrote the song. But it was fascinating. I'm going to tie this into our mission and heart. Last night, I had this realization that AI is the antithesis to the human experience, and I been searching for a long time, and like my purpose, and I think you'll resonate with this, is that we're both warriors. We've both come through the battlefields differently. We've both been on different battlefields, physically or emotionally, spiritually. But we're both warriors, and this warrior heart is a beautiful heart, because it's like, I think we've talked on different podcasts before, and I forget, I think I saw the author of this quote was, G.K. Chesterton said, a man fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him, or something of those lines. And that's the beauty of the warrior's heart. So last night I was in this experience and really saw that the AI is, and I don't mean like the AI like ChatGPT. I don't mean like, I think AI is growing our food, running our institutions, or running literally everything. I think the world's already been, I think we're waking up that we've been under control of AI for a very, very, very long time. And I realized last night that the AI is the enemy. And it's the enemy that we are not to necessarily fight, but it's the enemy that we are to pull people out of. And I think and just to affirm what you were saying before I deviated on this a little bit, is that the AI only wants to project an image of a weak, bumbling buffoon of a man, the mocked father, the goofy dude on sitcoms, or the bloody man that is also not the warrior's heart, the violent man. There's something that it's projecting to us to minimize us. And you and I and many other brothers are rising up and saying, this is not you. First of all, AI. And I really feel like finally I found who I am, who is the opposition of this life that I've been in. It's not, it is this machine system, but you do not define the human experience. We define the human experience. AI, you do not define what men's hearts shall be. Men and good healed brothers get to define what men's hearts shall be and how we shall live. And so I just wanted to share that with you. Is like, you're right. We've been presented I don't even know how to describe, like a fat, weak, sloppy, undisciplined joke of a male.
Yeah.
And of course, that's not a container that can hold the space or make everyone feel safe. And so society's like flailing around looking for someone to come save them, someone to come rescue them. And we're like, we're not going to rescue you, but you'll rescue yourself, you know?
Yeah, there's so much to this. And I love talking about AI. I just got, I did 2 weeks, this, we were texting, but I did 2 weeks in South by Southwest, and there's a lot of different things on AI.
Yeah.
And I listened to a podcast with Lex Friedman and Joe Rogan. Lex Friedman speaks very well about AI.
Yeah.
And he's got the interpretation of it being good for society. And I think I'll do a two-part here. The first thing is I would love to believe that, but I'm kind of more on the Joe Rogan mindset where this is going to turn insidious. And the reason why, and it's not to say that AI is bad in and of itself. For me, what it is, it's the people that program AI. Yeah. And those people that have the money that want to use AI for their purposes are going to program it with defining boundaries of how it can abuse the human experience, because that's their goal. And AI is going to have, I watched this movie at South by Southwest, it was along these lines, but it's essentially like AI operates within the boundaries we give it. And within those boundaries, it can get very creative and operate, right? But if you have evil within those boundaries, then it's going to get very creative within that, boundary. Right. And so that's the thing that really terrifies me about it, because we all know that there's plenty of bad people in this world programming people or taking advantage of humans. Right. And they're going to have the money to condition AI and then have some mass release where it looks innocent, but it's not. And we've seen this time and time again. And to your point as well, I think we've become very reliant. Like these things right here, I'm holding up my iPhone, is that, we've outsourced knowledge to this already for years, and people, you're already part AI. And if anybody tells me that they don't use their phone to look shit up, you're a liar. Right. And it's like, we've already outsourced intelligence to AI. Most of you guys can't even spell if I took spell check away from you. Like you've outsourced already part of your human experience. And we've been doing it since the invention of the smartphone. Yes. And you're right. Some people are starting to wake up to that. And then some people are just like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like I just use that. And it's like, okay, well, you now you don't even think anymore though. You don't have, it's taken us away from critical thinking. And to your point, a lot of that is being progressed. I mean, if you look at the federal government, right? The federal government and what it was established for was to be the parenting system for adults. For adults within the U.S. Now, it started out with a good intention, right? And then it progressed into this monstrosity of evil that basically just wants to control everybody's life and tell you exactly what you can and can't do. If you don't think AI is going to go that way, we've already seen this in practice. If you can't look at history and learn from it, it will repeat itself. And we have not learned from it. We've learned how to make it worse. And that's what people are going to do. So in our tangent here on this, I totally support you. And I believe in the same stuff. And like I said, I wish I could be of Lex Friedman's mindset. And I think AI has started out in this good intentioned way, but it will not stay there, just like the government didn't. Right. And that is going to be our end result. That will be our future. And that's why it is imperative that we start to help men. And you and I do this with our course, The Dawn of Masculinity. And we're eventually, everybody, we will be doing our in-person. Trust me, we have it already built. We just literally need to find a place. But what we're doing is creating men to find that strength and sovereignty in themselves, so they can have that critical thinking and they can decouple and use this kind of stuff to its advantage for them, not the reverse. Right. And it's like making that decision and making that clearly and understanding the consequences of impact, so you know when to harness it and when to release it, right? And that's what we're doing with men. But we got to build men to be strong in themselves, to have that sovereignty and confidence in who they are, so they can have that ability. And that's really where I think the strength is, because AI is not going anywhere. We're going to have to learn to live with it, but we don't have to be controlled by it, which is what I think a lot of people are going to end up trying to do with it as we progress.
Yes. It's interesting that the AI world, and this is all ties back to men, because you and I, we talk a lot about the hero's journey and the dawn of masculinity. We take men through that process of in the hero's journey, there's a death and rebirth in that process. And that is the natural cycle of life. The seasons die, everything dies. Winter is death, and then spring is resurrection. And that's the natural order of life. And the man who wants to be free and a liberated and whole hero in his own story has to go through that same cycle. But what AI does is separate humanity. It gives the illusion of live forever without the death and rebirth storyline. And that's why it is so antithetical to the human journey. Even though it looks like it parallels us, it tricks us into, you can be God, but God, even, whatever religion you want to look at, the old religions, the Norse religions, like there's always a death and resurrection, because this concept of spirituality is always tied to the natural cycles of the earth. And so men who have yet to go through that death, that kill the old version of themselves, to really face their greatest fears, to go into the cave, to like Luke Skywalker. And we were just watching this in our house.
You love it. You love using Luke Skywalker. It's one of the greatest hero stories, but you love it. I love it.
I love that movie. I love it. And I was playing it for my son, and we were watching Return of the Jedi, and Luke Skywalker goes back to Yoda, and Yoda's like, he asks Yoda, am I a Jedi now? And he says, you're not a Jedi yet. There's one thing you have to do. And he's like, what? You have to defeat Vader. And I thought it was such a good, for me, it was like, okay, that's it. It's like, we want to be, am I here? Am I there? Am I the person I want to be? And the master, the teacher, the sage is like, you got to go and you got to conquer that which you're most afraid of. Don't know. I'm just tying this into what men and healthy masculinity is this hero's journey. And then there's this antithetical, reductionary, don't face your fears. I'll take care of it for you. Don't study. Don't look up for yourself. I got you. And that it's almost, that's the emasculation of humanity, is to not face the death and resurrection story.
Well, it's not even just emasculation. I think it's dehumanizing us. It's dehumanizing humans.
Yeah.
And I think that's because even if you take away AI and simply look at just technology in general, the metaverse, right? Like people are going to start living their lives in a fictional location, and they're going to lack the experience. I mean, I was listening to another podcast. They were already talking about the declination in reproduction of humans, and how like the generation, I think it was Gen X, if I remember correctly, Gen X, the children of Gen X is already 30% lower, I think, than the baby boomers, because it went baby boomers and Gen X, right? Is that what it is? And then millennials?
Yeah, there were 70 million baby boomers. There's only 50 million Gen Xers, and then there are 90 million millennials.
Yeah, and so like then it has gone up. It went up for millennials, but then with the prediction right now is the millennials are going to have even less than the Gen Xers, or than the baby boomers of Gen X.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then from there, they're talking about the continual declination of at least Western, reproduction. And you're like, wow, that's interesting, because and part of that is being associated, or at least prospectively being associated with the increase of technology, the outsourcing of social aspects by going online, because now people are antisocial, right? Like you see kids. I mean, think about the damage that, regardless of what side of the fence anybody's on, going with the pandemic, what doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, the damage that is going to do socially to the younger generation is almost, it cannot be repaired. I saw kids that were scared to even walk by people because of how their parents trained them. You and I talked about this before.
Yeah.
And so if that coupled with technology and then the move to like metaverse and all these things, I mean, there is a complete like desocialization that's going to happen, if that's even a word.
Yeah.
If that's going to happen continually, and that is going to not only take away from humans, but take away from men being men, because part of being a man, part of masculinity in general, I mean, if we look at masculinity, in the heart of it is masculinity is essentially just those things that are inherent within men that society, women and society expects men to do, and men are the predominant capable person to perform it, right? If we look at masculinity in its essence, that's what it is, right? And that in and of itself is going to be ripped away, because you're not going to have men performing in society. There's not going to be anything socially to perform. It's all going to be on the web. It's all going to be in this metaverse. It's all going to be in this space of not really of any existence, right? Of real life existence.
Right.
And that to me is where you're going to see, like, as you put it, that emasculation of men and the stripping of masculinity and potentially femininity as well within society.
Well, good point. If one goes away, masculine is the container to make the feminine feel safe. So if the masculine goes away, feminine will go away.
Exactly.
Like, what are we?
And then you're going to have less people wanting to have sex, and then you're going to have less people wanting to connect. And then it's just going to be, it is what it is. Like, people are just going to be jacking off behind computers all the time. And that's about it.
Yeah. Did you see, I think Newsweek, I think it was Newsweek, and I saw, might have been Lex Friedman also on Twitter shared, it was the top 50 most visited websites in the world. Super fascinating. Google's the most, is number one, YouTube's number two, but I think, I don't know the exact number, but just rough estimate, it looked like 18 sites out of the top 50 in the world are porn sites.
Yes.
So you think of like all the humans on the planet struggling with whatever they're struggling with, trying to find some sort of resolution to their not feeling good. So they're going to these sites, getting a quick fix. And you're right. They're not, I mean, I was even thinking when I saw that, I'm like, what is happening? Like, really, are any of these humans real? Like, I've never been on a porn set. I can't share the validity of like, what is all this stuff? Are they real humans? Is this all AI? Does AI make things look not as clean to trick us that it's
right?
You know, like AI can do anything. I mean, we saw all the avatars that people put out of all the different multiverse, how they looked and stuff. Like,
bro, by the way, did you do that?
No,
dude, I didn't either. My wife and I didn't do it. And I was like, just think about this for a second. And people are gonna be like, you guys are conspiracy theorists. But I'm like, why did everybody do it? Why was this like a really, really sporadic, acute thing where people, like, if you don't think that they were using that for some form of data collection, of realistic faces and now granted, someone could go grab my picture off the internet. Somebody could grab yours. We're public figures, right? So I get that. But like, when you're willfully putting your face in there and you're actually willfully contributing to whatever system is behind that generation, whatever they're using that for, you're subscribing to that, right? Like, you just willfully subscribe to that. And I was like, anytime there's an acute distribution of like the same technology and everybody, and I look at my friends, some of the friends that we have stood shoulder to shoulder in what was going on during COVID and all that stuff, and you're like, but you're doing this, and it's like you realize, you see how you're kind of creating a contradiction with your message. Like, this is kind of the same shit in a different in a different way.
Wasn't there an allurement to it? Like, I was like, oh, that's interesting. It was like,
well, that's
like, come see what you would look like. And I was like,
they want you to be like, look what you'd look like if you were a space warrior, or like, look what you would look like if you were a tribal hunter. And you're like, okay. And then they obviously make you look great, right? Everybody looks sexy and phenomenal, and you're like, that's not real life, bro. Like, like let's not kid ourselves. Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up. It's really interesting that,
Fascinating.
I mean, of course, I would know that you and Taylor did not do it. Lauren and I didn't do it. And there were
Yeah.
some people that I was surprised that didn't. I was like, really?
Yeah.
But
Likewise.
again, there's this, I think if, and this is goes back to like the hero, unless we really know what we are about, like really, that's what we can only know that if you face death and gone through this, to be very clear of like what I'm here for. People are going to get swept and allured by, there's going to be the next thing coming and the next thing coming, until who's left standing, true pure blood human beings with the genetic structure that we were intended to have. Like, it's a fascinating reductionary plan that's taking place right now.
Yeah, it's that saying, if you believe in nothing, you'll fall for everything. And that's what I've started to find today, is that, like, not saying these people don't believe in something, but I don't think, when I saw people do some of the things, even with COVID and stuff like that, when I see people do stuff, it makes me question their strength and their foundations and beliefs in themselves.
Yep.
Because if you're not willing to question something first and critically think about it before you take action on it, I challenge what your belief system is and who you are, because you're just allowing yourself to be persuaded without verifying kind of what's behind it, or verifying kind of what's involved in it, and questioning that for a second at least. And I don't think a lot of people did. And I know we're extrapolating, opinion and conjecture off of a AI system of just pictures, right? But I think that that's the bigger question. And that, again, leads back to men. And it leads back to the fact that if you don't know who you are, which men are lost today, a lot of men are lost today. If you don't know who you are as a man, if you're not confident in who you are, you'll never stand up against anything. You're going to get pushed around. You're going to get persuaded, and you're going to be manipulated to a life that you don't enjoy living, which is why you're inauthentic, and which is why you struggle with yourself and struggle with your relationships. And that's where I think it kind of comes into play. And I think we're seeing a lot of this with these social experiments that have been going on for the last few years, because they are 100% social experiments that have been going on. I think we're seeing a lot of that. And to me, it's a bigger problem in us as men, that there's so many men that are persuaded by this stuff. Like you talked about it with the picture of men being fumbly bumbly idiots and fat sloppy little turds, like walking around. And it's like, what happened, in my opinion, what happened was we created the TV, and then we created this power with media and celebrities and stuff like that, and they wanted to attack the patriarchy. Okay, whatever. Like, the patriarchy had some, without the patriarchy structure, society would not have evolved the way it did in the amount of time it did.
Yep.
But with the patriarchal structure, we had oppression. We had people put down that shouldn't have been. We had certain, groups, mainly, like, obviously the entire, women, female was kind of put down and held down, right? And so I understand that, and I agree with that. But we got to look at both sides of the coin, right? To everything that's bad, there's good, and to everything that's good, there's bad. And so we got to see that. And what I take from that is the fact that they started to paint men in general, to take that down. They started to paint them as idiots and like always being shown up by women and all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, I get what you're getting at, but on the same token, you're also programming young men to not believe in themselves, to think that they're expected to be young, bumbling idiots that have no power, no confidence. And that's showing up in the men today, because you and I are the generation that really was impacted by TV, right?
Yes.
We were really impacted. Now, we weren't as impacted by technology in the sense of computers. We were obviously at the start of it. The generation behind us is the one that's really indoctrinated in that. But we were indoctrinated in sitcoms and all that stuff. Like, you look at, come on, look at, and I love Friends, but you look at David Schwimmer's character in that, and you're like, come on, bro, that is not not a dude, right? Like that not a guy that's holding strong in himself.
And even Matt LeBlanc's character, who's more the masculine, is a big dummy,
dummy, an idiot. Yeah. And so it's like you start looking at that, and like sitcoms did that, and I love sitcoms, don't get me wrong, but you look at the maturation of that and what that's turned into today, and it's like, holy crap. Like you just go, and anybody listening, be honest with yourself, be objective, but look at the male roles within a movie. Look at the male roles right within a movie, and tell me that they are not being painted in a weakened way so that men can't actually find themselves in confidence and power. And you can't, I can't find it, especially in today's movies. Jesus, especially not in today's movies. But it's really bad. And I think that's really where we're struggling as men, because the fact that we're so influenced by TV, by the internet, by the media outlets. Every generation's got their specific I would say connection to one of those pieces, and ours was more the TV. The next generation's more the internet and media, right? Then the generation following that's going to be metaverse and all this other crap. And so that's where I see masculinity today, and it's really getting challenged, and we got to find ourselves and find that confidence and get back to that hero's journey. Find some freaking adversity and go fucking embark on it and lose that goddamn battle. You got to fucking lose.
That's right.
Like,
that's right.
The phoenix rises after the dust settles and the ashes. The phoenix rises after that, but men will never experience that if they're not willing to get out. And most men aren't willing to get out because they're behind a fucking computer, or because they're told that they're a fumbling, bumbling idiot and they're going to fail at everything anyway. So just suck at life right now and continue to suck at life.
That's right. That's right. Dude, it is, you're saying life. It's like, we're at a precipice, it feels like right now, where we will either choose life to propagate it, to nurture it, to honor it, to cultivate it, or we will continue down this path where there is no life. There's no life in AI. There's no, I mean, we already see, you were just talking about the depopulation plan. They do it however, the poison our food, poison the air, poison the water, poison our minds, poison the education, poison the institutions that we go to. Like everything is completely set up to keep humans from continuing life. And ironically, the only way to propagate life is to face the death and to lose the war and to rise again through that. And that's the great paradox. If people are afraid to die, then we cannot live. And I think that's what it feels like. We're at a crossroads right now. There will be those of us who choose to lead humanity through this portal or squeezing. And then there will be those who just said it was too hard, too difficult. I don't know, whatever reasoning they're going to give, but the grit, like it's getting lost. And that's exactly like, that's even why that's literally why I wrote the book. And that's why I created Design the Man Within, the book, because the fact that, like, back in the 80s when the first men's movement took place, right? It was it was all this like spiritual stuff. It was dudes dancing in loincloths in the woods and around a big fire and stuff. And you lost fucking 99% of men, because 99% of men are blue collar, average, everyday guys, and they're not going to go out and do this shit. They don't have the pathway of what it took for those people to get to that. Right. So it was this very spiritual group of men, not the everyday Joe, it wasn't that guy. And so they lost him. And I talked to one of the legends in the men's space, Philip Folsom, who was around for that. And he's one of the wise, elders in the masculine community. And he was around for that. And he's like, yeah, we lost him. He's like, if we couldn't get the everyday guy with us, how were we supposed to help masculinity? Who are you helping? Like, you're helping this small section, this less than 1% that's already on some spiritual journey. But that's not the guys that are influencing the next generation. So they lost them. Right. And that's why, to your point, that's why then I created the book, was that, like,
to get that grit back, to get that connection back with the world and with just living life as a human being. And then as a man who prides himself in how he shows up. He prides himself in the connection to the people that he has, you know, and he takes those good things from the past and then couples them to evolve with some new ways, some new perceptions. And that's what the book's about. It's to grab that everyday guy. I grew up as a blue collar kid, man. I grew up, you know, detailing airplanes and working on cars and just spending long hours outside and playing sports and having enough money to not feel the stress of poverty, but not having a lot of money to live some beautiful life. And we grew up very blue collar, and I see that as the backbone of what men, of the backbone of men. I mean, it's the backbone of this country, the blue collar, the average, the everyday people, right? They're the backbone of this country. But those men are also the ones that are having, you know, kids in the next generation. If we can't give them the tools to start challenging some of the perceptions they have to help that evolution and to keep some of that old style grit that makes us that powerhouse that helps to evolve society. If we can't get those guys with us again on this journey around in the men's space, we're going to lose the next generation. We're going to lose the generation out of that, and it's going to get completely deteriorated because it's going to be taken over by these things that we're taught, that we've just been talking about for the last 30 minutes. And it's going to get outsourced to them. And so we need men to step up and to question their perceptions and to say, well, shit, man, maybe I have been a little, maybe that is not a way to speak to my wife, or maybe that is a wrong way to have a relationship with my kid, or maybe it is okay for me to be vulnerable. Like it's and so I took the book and I gave guys a lot of what I know is going on in their heads because I was there.
Yeah.
I'm not exempt from it. You're not exempt from it. This shit happened to you too. And people don't realize that, like, we need to speak to those guys. And so I created the book, Design the Man Within, to talk to them about this and say, bro, number one, I'm going to call out exactly what's going in your mind right now because I went through it. And then number two, I'm going to give you a tool to question, challenge, and transmute that into something different if you so choose. And hopefully you choose to change those things that aren't serving you, to change those things that aren't serving your ecosystem, and to create something beautiful of that that's different from the past. It's not saying you're bad. It's saying that we have to evolve. And if we don't evolve, everything dies off, because if we didn't evolve, we wouldn't be here today. Hey, fact check this, everybody. We started out as single cell organisms. If we didn't evolve, we wouldn't be here today. So there goes your freaking facts. Check that out. If we don't evolve as men, we're not going to be around much longer as a stabilizing force in society. And with society to thrive, it always has thrived. And you've spoken beautifully about this, way better than I do, is that the balance of feminine and masculine, that polarity has to be there.
Yes.
It has to be there for society to thrive. And we are going to lose that. And I'm not trying to be somebody who's like a doomsday speaker, but right now, what I see in society is a very aggressive attack to decouple us from that polarity, to neutralize everything and make subservience to technology and to governments, instead of allowing the independence between masculine and feminine and between people. Like, that's what I see society. So that's why this book even fucking came about, man.
Love it. Love it. Man, there's so much that you just said, like the duality of the masculine and feminine. There's this push right now, there's this push right now to either non-gender humans or confuse the gender of humans, which doesn't propagate life. So again, I'm going to come back to, there's a force that wants humans to stop propagating life. But in that confusion of the one, like Baphomet, the satanic statue of Baphomet as breasts as a woman and male figure, it's a unigender being.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, it's super fascinating. Like,
Interesting.
So that's where this movement is coming from, which doesn't propagate life. And life, like live, Live, reversed, is evil, Evil. So there's this choosing whether we will choose to live or whether we'll choose, unfortunately, the inversion of live is evil. And this is not a judgment on people. It's just understanding that evil stops life. Just does. Evil people stop humans from living. That's what they do. And I can hear some critic or some voice saying, well, men are evolving into a more refined, I don't know, etheric being. But I say that's not evolution of the man. That is a deconstruction of the protector, that when the protector's gone, no one can guard the gates. You know, I don't know if you saw this, you know, everyone probably did, Game of Thrones. Like if there's not the watchman on the wall, anything can come in. And there's there must be the masculine container that must be strong, that allows everyone to feel safe. And why I'm so excited about your book and the mission, I know that there is a resurgence. There's this, you know, you were talking to this word prophet came up, that there's a generation of prophets, and a prophet always called people to return back to the original source. It always said, you've gone here, you must come back. You've strayed, return. And what you and I really believe are prophets to call men back to the original purpose of what being a man is. Strong, loving, firm, gentle. You know, the dichotomy of being strong and gentle, kind but firm, and all these different beautiful traits. So we are moving forward in a way, or returning back to our pure sense.
Yeah, I think actually it is an evolution, and the reason why is because some of those things weren't inherent in the ancestral males, right? So like some of those softness and vulnerability weren't inherent in them, and not that I can find, right? Like not that I can find, not that I've read about from people who've done research on this, right? Now, there's certain people who will claim common themes of men ancestrally, which I agree with, because I think they were there. Civilization came into play and changed that dynamic. And then you started to have this vast change when technology came into play and media and stuff like that, which then I believe started to try to emasculate men and masculate women.
Yes.
And like you said, that's a confusion, right? Do we believe women are incapable? Fuck no. Like, you're an idiot. No. But do we believe that men in the same feature as a woman, in something that is inherently more masculine, are men better? Yes. Just biologically, we have like more strength. It's just inherently in us. I'm sorry. That's just how we were created on this planet. And so there are certain things that men are going to just inherently always be better than. It's not saying women can't be good and they can't do it. It's saying that if they go up against a dude, it's just not going to be apples to apples. And inherently, there are things that women are just naturally going to crush men in. And that is just what it is. And we have no way of catching up to that. And it's because of the fact that, like you said, we have ancestral realms in which that has been tied into us biologically.
Yes.
And when you strip, I think that there is a value in which we need to go back to the ancestral ways of being men, coupled with the evolutionary pieces of incorporating things like vulnerability, right? Because back in the day, what it would be, if I would say go be ancestral, right? Men, you and I are going to compete with one another. We're not going to be friends like we are today. We're not going to be brothers because we don't see each other that way. Now, we might be a tribe, but we're going to have a hierarchical system in that tribe, and someone's going to be less than the other one. Whereas today we can see ourselves as being on the same level as one another, being in the same fight as one another, but also being able to be vulnerable and be open and have that sense of that that feminine essence to our relationship, in which we can still see each other as equals and not threats, but also know that we can rely on one another to watch each other's back. I don't think necessarily that was ancestrally connected with men, because of the fact of the need for survival was so high that we had to look at each other as competition. Because at the end of the day, if I had the pick of the litter for the most beautiful woman because I was the biggest, strongest hunter, and I befriended you and I turned my back and you're like, well, this is the perfect time, right in my back, right? Like that was a high likelihood because you wanted the most beautiful one with the biggest hips, who looked like a very good child birthing. That was literally the facts of evolution, right? Like this was why, if you look at early days of the like British Kingdom, this is literally, a woman back then was very different as far as attractiveness to a woman today. And it was because of the necessities of survival and continuing to procreate, right? And so we would have looked at those values. You would have looked to kill me, because if I got to pick the best one in the litter, then you're going to be like, well, at some point I got to kill this dude, or else I'm going to be stuck with, this person that's not great or whatever. Right. So like there was an essence of not allowing that connection in a deeper way, I believe. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not right on everything. But this is just what I perceive that ancestral line to look like for men. So there were values that weren't inherent, which is why I say evolve, because I think we need to bring those great qualities that those men had and then couple that with new qualities in society today to make this more complete male who is a dangerous motherfucker that people don't want to walk up to and fucking hold a gun up to and try to rob, but also someone who's going to nurture his daughters and his sons equally the same and give them the love and care that they need. And that is a different balance than what I think was back in the day. And that's where I say the evolution needs to come, because I do believe in Jordan Peterson's message. I think men need to be dangerous, because dangerous men and men with good intentions that are dangerous know when to use it and when to hold back. And they don't go searching for problems because they know that what they can do is going to lead to severe issues and consequences for the other person. So they reserve that until they're threatened to a level that they need to employ it, right? And that is a difference. Like we need to be dangerous, but we don't need to just jump into that. And I say this because even like the older days, even when you and I grew up, and then our fathers and uncles who raised us, like if you and I had a problem, we go, fuck it, let's go take this out to the recess area and just duke it out, right? So there was a propensity to just go to violence. But I think dangerous men in an evolved fashion don't just go to violence. They look to shut that down, because if they go there, they know what's going to happen because they know what they're capable of. And I think that could be, in my opinion, that's more of an evolution today than it was back in not just ancestrally, but even in recent times of the men who raised us, right? So yeah.
Dude, that's so good. It's interesting, this word evolution and revolution, and this revolution of like full circle back, but we're evolving into this new level setting. And I love this concept of, we honor where we've come from, but we also say we have something to add to the path forward. And that is the vulnerable, courageous man that can use his voice first, and if need be, use his body second. And I think of, I love you and I, you have an American flag behind you. I have an American flag. Like, I love this country, and I love the founding fathers and the ability to articulate viscerally their words cuttingly to one another. I mean, the debates, I mean, between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, they were like, they used to be friends and they became savages to one another, but it was better to use that. I mean, as opposed to draw swords or duel it out pistols wise, but they were also willing to do that too. There was this like duality between the verbal and the physical, and I think that men we've been led astray of just too much in the words, or not able to use our words, so we just want to jump into the fight. There's not the and. There's just been an or path. Like
yes,
be the you know the movie. It's one of my favorite movies. Is it Defiant or Defiance with Daniel Craig and Liev Schreiber about the Jewish rebellion?
Oh, yeah.
One of the best movies. True story. About the I think Belinsky brothers, but they were this Jewish family that were blue collar amongst all the learned Jewish people in this town. And so they were always like shunned as like, oh, they're the laborers. But then when shit hit the fan, who was protecting the rabbi and all the it was these guys.
Yeah.
And it was like a dichotomy of or, but we're bridging this or into an and, saying be strong and articulate, learned and savage, you know?
Yeah, because the battlefield of physical conflict has been taken away. It's been stripped by laws. And for better or for worse, I think there was a value to that, because on average, I would say there was more of a gentleman's rule back in the day, where if like we went out to a parking lot and we got in a fight, like once one of us went down, there was no continual beating.
Right.
There was none of that shit. It was like, all right, either you help the guy up or his buddies can get him up. That's it. It's over. Yep. People didn't jump in. It was this, we had a problem. We went and handled it. Right. So there's a gentleman's agreement in that. And so when I look at when I look in here, what you're saying, history, especially because if we drag ourselves back to the past without doing the evolutionary piece, we're going to just go back to the past and history is going to repeat itself. We're going to go too far. Right. And then the other side, like you said, if we just go to words and we forget about the past, we're going to create a version that's not even of any power and is going to be easily toppled. Right. So it's going to be easily manipulated. It's going to be easily pushed over. Yes. And if somebody chooses to make subservient, they will. Right. Yes. So this and that you're talking about, which is what I want men to get to. That's again why the book was even written, was I want guys to get to and, because I don't want them to go so far back to the past they forget what the evolution is. I want them to go back to the past, use the good pieces, incorporate them to who they are, and then incorporate what's going to serve us in the future, because the battlefield's changed. It's no longer the parking lot or the grass or wherever. It's social media, it's intellect, it's intelligence. Yes. If you can't compete in those levels, then you are not going to be able to defend the role that men play within society, and it's going to get left behind. We have to be equally as capable to now defend and protect verbally as we can physically. And that's where I think the balance lies in the future. That's where we have to be as men, is like, you got to be able to intellectually have a conversation and battle it out, right? Like you need to be able to say, cool, you don't like my opinion, let's go talk about this. Yep. Oh, you don't want to talk about it? Well, then that just shows me you're scared to talk about it and inferior, because you understand now that there's a protector here who's not just somebody physically who can protect, they can do it intellectually. Yes. And that's what, it's part of the reason why I love Tim Kennedy. Tim Kennedy, like that guy can compete intellectually, and that's probably not what he's recognized for, because he is such a prominent force physically. He's a dangerous man in very many levels, but intellectually, he's on point, man. Yes. Yes, and that's the thing, man. Joe Rogan, same way, physically, but then intellectually, good luck, dude. He's going to be hard. He's going to be hard to compete with. And that's where I think the evolution of men needs to be today. I think there's some key figures that are blending that, and they may not speak to it, but I see them, and they're blending it. And that's where I think we need to be as men. We need to start building that intellect, that vocabulary, that intelligence, because that's where the battlefield is going to be in the future. And we have to be ready for it.
I love it, brother. And I love you. You're such a stud. You got me fired up now.
Always. This is how our conversations always go. We just feed each other. It's like fanning the flame.
It is. It's so good. And, we've talked about this. I've referenced Star Wars, and I'll reference another one of our favorite movies, but Old Uncle Argyle.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, first learn to use this, and then I'll teach you how to use the sword.
Exactly.
That's
the epitome.
That's the epitome of it. Yeah.
Well said. I mean, we end it right there. That's exactly what we're trying to get to.
So good.
Yeah.
Brother, tell us the name of the title of the book and then where we can find it here when it comes out. And I can't wait to share.
Yeah, so it's released. It'll be officially released for purchase on May 16th. Not sure when this will come out, this will air, but it'll be for purchase. So if this is after May 16th, it's already for purchase. Go buy it. If it's on May 16th, buy it. And if not, pre-order it. You can go to johnnyelsasser.com. It's going to be available on there for pre-order. The book is called Design the Man Within. And again, it's about intentionality. I want us to be intentional about the men that we're creating to really thrive in this world and evolve. So that is what it's called. It'll be available everywhere. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, wherever, Target, wherever you go and buy your books, it's going to be there. And then we will be having an audiobook released as well in the near future after the book is out. So keep your eyes out for an audiobook if you're an audio listener. But really appreciate anybody that is willing to go take a chance and see what the book's about and see if it can help them. And if there's one thing it can help you with in your life, I'm a happy camper. Like for me, it's not about sales or money. It's about getting a different perspective into men's hands to make them think. That's what it's about. So,
and I can't wait to read it with my son and to go through it with my son and brother, I love you and thank you. Thanks for writing this book. Thanks for the stance you're doing. I tell you, but I want everyone to hear this. There is a lot of beautiful souls in this space, but there is only one of you. And you're because you know what you have, brother, and I want to tell you this before we hit record. You have love in your heart for people, and it shines through. Like as much as I just want you to just honor that and cultivate that. And that love that you have in your heart is so beautiful, brother. So thank you. And I love you. And I'm excited. And everyone, please go buy this book.
Appreciate you, brother. And I appreciate that. And I received that. Thank you so much.
I love you. Thank you. Well, like I said in the beginning, everyone, please go get this book, Design the Man Within. Support our brother, Johnny. It's such a powerful book. And he is such a beautiful brother. So thank you for coming on. And everyone, enjoy. I hope you are on this journey. My spirits are feeling lifted today, healing physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and sexually are all coming for us all. It's coming. So hold on. I love you all. I bless you all. I am Lucas Mack. This is the Golden Rule Revolution, and I'll talk to you on the next episode. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for listening. For support in your journey, go to my website, lucasmack.com.